We're taking your room. Or you can move out. That's what my mother said the night my sister Heather and her husband Trevor stacked 6 suitcases in our hallway like they owned the place. I'm Curtis, 32, the son who paid the mortgage after Dad died, until I was told to be gone by the weekend. So I left. And that's when their smiles cracked. Men in suits started pounding on Mom's door. Investments. Trevor bragged about? They were draining my mother's savings. They thought I'd stay quiet like always. They forgot 2 things. I have receipts for everything I bought in that house, and when the questions started, I hit record. This is how getting pushed out of my own home became the moment I took my life back and exposed a con man in my family. Have you ever been used by your own family? Drop your city below and hit subscribe. 2 years after Dad's heart gave out, I moved back home because Mom couldn't carry the mortgage on a teacher's salary. I told myself it was temporary. Month after month, temporary turned into $2,000 from my paycheck. Half the mortgage, most utilities, groceries. When the water heater died, I bought a new one. When the roof leaked, I paid for the replacement. I even funded the kitchen renovation she'd wanted for years. The house kept standing because I kept writing checks, but none of it counted at our table. Mom would glance at me and say, "That's nice," then turn to Heather. "Your sister is considering law school." Heather never went. She bounced between retail jobs while Mom quietly covered her rent. I drove 40 minutes every weekend to mow the lawn, fix the faucet, patch drywall. When I graduated with honors in computer engineering, Mom's smile lasted 1 second before, "When are you going to settle down like your sister?" Then Heather brought Trevor home. Slick handshake, TED Talk voice, cufflinks that flashed under the dining light. He showed up with $30 bouquets and took Mom to fancy restaurants. I brought home stability. He brought spectacle. Guess which one she praised? "Such a motivated young man," she'd say. Then ask me when I plan to find someone and stop hiding in work. Dating with my mother down the hall was already awkward. The few women I did bring by got compared to Heather and interrogated about timelines. After the 3rd woman left in tears, I stopped introducing anyone. I told myself being the good son mattered more. The night it all snapped, I came home from a brutal week. Systems crash, thousands lost, boss hinting at a promotion. I wanted pizza and sleep. Instead, 6 glossy suitcases towered in the entryway, and Dad's special occasion whiskey, my bottle, sweated on the counter in Trevor's hand. "We decided we needed family time," Heather said, giving me a hug that didn't land. Mom's voice went high and bright. "They'll be with us for a while." "In my room?" I asked. "In your room," Heather answered. "The office is too small for a married couple. You can take the guest room," Mom added, eyes sliding away. "Or consider your own place. You've been talking about moving out anyway," Heather chimed. "Great if you're out by the weekend." The air thinned. I wasn't a son anymore. I was inventory. A resource to be reassigned. I stared at the people I'd been carrying and felt something go quiet inside me, like a thread finally breaking. I didn't yell. I didn't beg. I went to bed on the pullout in the guest room and set my alarm for 6. By the time Heather's silk pajamas floated into the kitchen, I'd already listed my desk, boxed my tools, and pulled every receipt from a manila folder. Roof, fridge, washer, dryer, sectional, dining table. Paper proof that I wasn't a freeloader. I was the line item that kept this house alive. "Mom, we need to talk," I said over pancakes she'd never cooked on a weekday in months. "There's nothing to discuss," she answered, bright and brittle. "Heather and Trevor need support." "And I don't?" My voice stayed even. 2 years, half the mortgage, utilities, groceries. That count for anything? Her spatula clattered. "Is this about money? That's what children do, Curtis. Help. Then why doesn't help run both ways?" Heather drifted in. "It's just a room, don't be a baby. Just a room," that held my life. Trevor appeared behind her, cologne first. "Time to spread those wings, buddy," he smirked. Survival of the fittest. Something in me hardened. You're right, I said. I'll be gone by tomorrow. Great if you're out by the weekend, Heather sang. We've got business associates Friday. I rented a small truck on my lunch break, signed the paperwork with hands that didn't shake, and texted Ryan from work. Know any places? Luck found me. The tenant above him had given notice. That afternoon, I toured a modest one-bedroom with clean light, a narrow balcony, and a landlord who liked steady pay stubs. Deposit in first month, he said. I transferred both from the account where I'd stashed what was left of my savings after roofing and appliances. Lease signed. Keys in palm. Breath I didn't know I was holding. Back at Mom's, Frank, our 70-year-old neighbor and Dad's best friend, waited on the porch like a lighthouse. Your mother called. Situation brewing? They're kicking me out, I said simply. Frank's jaw set. John worried her favoritism would come to this. I've got a truck and a back that still lifts. We moved like a quiet machine. When Mom protested the dining table, I laid the 6-month-old receipt on the wood. She wilted. Heather rotated between silence and barbs. Drama. Overreaction. Who will host Friday? Trevor attempted a man-to-man. No hard feelings. Independence suits a man. I shut the truck door on his smile. My apartment smelled like fresh paint and possibility. Frank held the other end of my mattress, wheezing, and said, "Sometimes the family you choose matters more." We built a bed, then a life. Rock climbing gym membership, real dinners, sleep without footsteps in the hall. At work, I was lighter. My boss talked promotion. Jessica from UX invited me out, then back to see the new place. For the first time since Dad died, my future wasn't a maintenance schedule. I texted Mom, formally. I'll no longer contribute to the household. Her reply was instant. We need to discuss the finances. I didn't answer. Boundaries aren't debates. 3 nights later, Frank called. His steady voice was off balance. Curtis, there are men in suits at your mother's door. They aren't friendly. Frank's warning sat like a stone in my gut. I told myself it wasn't my problem. They'd made their choice when they pushed me out. 2 days later, fate chose for me. At the coffee shop by my office, I ran into Michael Chen, a former colleague who'd jumped to a big financial firm. We traded small talk until I mentioned, casually, my sister and her husband moved into my mom's place. Kind of pushed me out. Michael's smile drained. Your sister's husband? He in finance? Trevor Hamilton. Calls himself an investment manager. He glanced around and stepped closer. Curtis, this stays between us. Trevor Hamilton is under active SEC investigation. We suspect a Ponzi scheme. The words hit like cold water. For what? Taking in client money, paying old investors with new funds, skimming the rest. Fake returns, shell companies. The net's closing. He lowered his voice. If he's been running money through your family's accounts, they'll have questions. My mouth went dry. The fancy dinners. The car he couldn't afford. The sudden family time. Frank's men in suits. Suddenly, all the puzzle pieces slid into one ugly picture. That night, I called Mom. Has Trevor asked you to sign anything? Move money? Use the house as a business address? Absolutely not, she snapped. Then her voice caught. The old tell I knew since grade school. You're jealous of his success. Trevor says you left because you can't stand seeing your sister happy. I'm trying to keep you out of trouble. I won't listen to your slander. Click. I stared at my phone, equal parts fury and fear. Jessica came over, read it in my face, and sat close. So even after they kicked you out, you're worried about them, she said softly. That says a lot. Or it says I'm bad at letting go. It says you do the right thing, she countered. If they won't hear you, get something they can't ignore. How was I supposed to gather evidence on a fraudster without tipping him off? I had no plan, until the plan rang my doorbell. 3 days later, I opened the door to find Heather. Makeup smeared, hair undone, the shine stripped away. Can I come in? She whispered. I stepped aside. She stood there, eyes scanning the furniture she once belittled. Nice place, she said, stalling. Then, You were right about Trevor. The room went quiet in a way that hums. Right about what exactly? Everything. Her voice broke. 2 FBI agents came to Mom's this morning. They're looking for Trevor. They showed us emails, accounts. Curtis. He used Mom's retirement. All of it. $420,000. She wiped at tears. My name is on paperwork. They think I helped him. Did you? She shook her head hard. I signed whatever he put in front of me. He said it was for taxes. I didn't ask questions. I didn't want to look stupid. My own anger flared, then faltered. Where is he? I don't know. He left yesterday. Won't answer. Panic flickered across her face. I think he's running. And he left me to take the fall. The floor seemed to tilt. Why didn't you tell me any of this when you moved in? Because Trevor said you'd ask questions. Her voice shrank. He said we needed you gone. There it was. The knife turned and named. I swallowed it down. Okay, we're going to Mom's. Now. Heather nodded, exhausted, relieved. I grabbed my keys and my phone. If Jessica was right, words wouldn't be enough. We'd need proof. Headlights cut the dark as we pulled into Mom's driveway. Inside, she sat at the table, surrounded by papers the agents had left, eyes hollow. Curtis, she whispered. I'm so sorry. I set my phone face down on the wood, thumb hovering over the record icon, as the front door latch began to turn. Trevor stepped in like he still owned the room. Designer jacket, tired charm. He froze when he saw the paperwork spread across Mom's table and Heather beside me with red eyes. Family meeting? He tried, brightening. Heather, baby, I've been calling. The FBI came, I said, thumb tapping my phone's record button. Screen face down, mic live. They explained your business. His smile twitched and reset. There's clearly a misunderstanding. My dealings are legitimate? Heather's voice wobbled, then hardened. They showed us the shell companies, Trevor. The fake accounts. You moved Mom's retirement, $420,000 through offshore transfers. For regulatory purposes, he snapped, the mask slipping. You don't understand high-level finance. What I understand, I said, is returns paid with new investor money. That's not finance. That's fraud. He ignored me, pivoted to Mom. Laura, you know me. I've taken care of this family. Mom's voice was small. You took everything I saved. His eyes flicked to the door, measuring angles. This is temporary turbulence. My lawyers will clear it up. Is that why you opened credit lines in my name? Heather fired back. Why there's a second mortgage on Mom's house with forged signatures. His charm dissolved like sugar in hot water. No one forced you, he said flatly. You both wanted the returns. You didn't ask questions. The room stung. Even Mom flinched at the cruelty. I leaned in. And now? You run and leave them holding the bag? Business necessity. His voice went cold. Sometimes you cut losses to preserve capital. I came for emergency cash and passports. The FBI emptied the safe, Mom whispered. They had a warrant. Real panic flashed. He turned to Heather, voice suddenly syrupy. Baby, remember the Cayman account? Your grandmother's maiden name? Come with me. A few days. We access funds, disappear, start over. The naked calculation made my hands steady. It's too late, I said, lifting my phone so he could see the red timer. You just admitted to hidden accounts, flight, and fraud. His face snapped to animal. He lunged. Jessica, standing at the kitchen doorway, hit the panic button on the alarm system I'd installed last year. A shrill siren filled the house. Blue and red washed across the curtains a minute later. Trevor pivoted again, wild-eyed. He's lying. I never admitted anything. He looked from Heather to Mom, hunting for the old sympathy. None came. I think you should leave, Trevor, Mom said, voice shaking but firm. The police will be here any second. He sagged, then hissed, This isn't over. It is, I said quietly. For you. Uniforms filled the doorway. The officers' questions were clinical. Names, IDs, any weapons, the nature of the emergency. I handed over my phone. He admitted he's fleeing. There are hidden accounts. Jessica backed me up. Heather added the FBI visit. Mom described the retirement transfer. Within minutes, Trevor's hands were cuffed behind his back. He tried one last performance. Misunderstanding, harassment, targeted businessman. But it sounded like a recording of a man who'd run out of tracks. As the squad car rolled away, the house exhaled. Mom crumpled into a chair. Heather folded into herself and then into me. And for the first time since Dad died, I stood where a son should stand. Not as a wallet, not as a handyman, but as the boundary that kept my family safe. The weeks after were a grind. FBI interviews, attorneys, spreadsheets that felt like autopsies. Trevor sat in custody on charges that read like a glossary. Wire fraud, money laundering, identity theft, investment fraud. Thanks to the recording and our cooperation, Mom and Heather avoided criminal charges. The money, though, was gone. Restitution would take years. One night, over a table finally ours again, Mom said, "I treated you terribly, Curtis. You carried us, and I pushed you out. Why did you come back?" "Because it was right," I answered. "And because you're my family." That conversation reset us. Mom took a part-time job and learned to live smaller, steadier. Heather started over as an admin, then earned a promotion, then apologized without the word "but." She told me, "I didn't ask questions because I liked the benefits too much." I told her, "That's how con men win. They count on silence." I kept the life I'd built, my place, my work, my boundaries. Jessica stayed through the paperwork, the panic, the long nights, and turned "we should reschedule" into "we'll handle it." On my balcony at sunset, I told her, most people would run from this much family chaos. She smiled. "I'm not most people." 6 months later, we gather once a week. Sometimes at Mom's, sometimes at my apartment, sometimes out when there's something to celebrate. The meals aren't performances anymore. They're proof. Here's what I learned. Family isn't a ledger or a leash. It's respect plus choice. Boundaries don't end love. They make love honest. When I walked out of a house I'd paid to hold together, I didn't abandon my family. I taught them how to value me. And when I walked back, it was on my terms. Have you ever had to step away to be seen clearly? Tell me your story in the comments. If this hit home, like and subscribe for more true stories about self-respect, real connection, and the kind of family we choose.